Thank you so much for creating time for us. If you woke up with us on Daybreak, we appreciate your time and company. But if you're just joining us, we also welcome you on board as we start the second interview. This particular morning being Wednesday, it is Health Wednesday. And on the second part, we usually take time to understand our bodies, understand our state of health. They say that health is wealth. So we usually take time here to break down different conditions to just help you live a healthier lifestyle. And this particular morning, we just know that we are a few hours to the World Diabetes Day, and this is around the time when we actually climax awareness around diabetes. And if I'm just looking at this year's theme, the theme for 2024 is centering around diabetes and well-being, actually just looking at how people with diabetes can live better lives. And one of the ways of managing diabetes, from what I know, is a bit of lifestyle changes. And that is what we are going to be talking about: what you need to eat, what you need to avoid, and of course also talking about foods that can help us, how we can prevent diabetes later on. So allow me bring on board my guest in studio this morning. His name is Philip Lundu. He is a clinical nutritionist from the Mpisha Hospital. Karibu sana this morning to Daybreak.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning.
All right. So we are also expecting Yvonne Mora. Yvonne is a diabetes warrior. She knows where she wears the shoe and knows where it pinches. When she gets here, she'll be telling us a bit about her experience living with diabetes. She was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, so she'll tell us a bit about how that feels and also what sort of adjustments she has had to make in her day-to-day life just to be able to better manage this particular condition. But of course, like we always start on this show, Philip, we usually don't assume that everybody knows the conditions we are talking about. So this is the time for us to create awareness around diabetes and maybe just to break it down. I know it centers around the blood sugar levels in the body, but explain to somebody who's watching you this morning what diabetes is in simple terms.
Okay, fine. Thank you for this opportunity. First of all, we need to understand what is diabetes. And diabetes is a situation whereby there's excess sugar in the blood. And when you find individuals who have excess sugar in the blood and there's deficiency or is not sufficient in the cells and tissue, we have got different types of diabetes. There's type 1 diabetes, there's type 2 diabetes, and there's type 3 diabetes. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about type 1 diabetes, the onset is usually most commonly below the age of 30 years. Mm-hmm. And when you have got type 1 diabetes, it means that the body or the insulin is not produced completely. Mm-hmm. So there's body immunity attacks an organ in the pancreas. It's called the beta cell, and the body completely shuts off and there's no production of insulin. Mm-hmm. So type 1 is most common in children, but you can also find an adult who has got type 1 at the age of 32 or 40. We call it late autoimmune diabetes of the adult. Mm-hmm. And in type 1, there is no cure. And majority of all the type 1, when they are diagnosed, they are put on insulin for the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. So there's no cure for type 1.
Type 1 diabetes. It's common in children and in adults. It's most
common in children, but you'll find few adults at the age of 30 to 41. Mm-hmm. We call them LADA, late autoimmune diabetes of the adult. Mm-hmm. And then we have got type 2 diabetes, most common in the people age of 40 years and above. But still, you can find children who are obese at the age of 16, at the age of 10 years, who have got type 2 diabetes. Mm-hmm. So the risk factors of type 2 diabetes can be, one, genetic. It can be either excess body weight or obesity. It can be dyslipidemia, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and poor lifestyle choices. And then we have got type 3 diabetes, which is called gestational diabetes. Now, gestational diabetes, they are divided into two. Gestation is only in women who are expectant. So a woman can have diabetes before conception. And there are those who develop glucose intolerant during pregnancy, most common between 24 weeks to 32 weeks. You can find even at 36 weeks, some women develop the type 3 diabetes. That's just in a nutshell about diabetes.
Mm-hmm. So you said that type 1 diabetes is irreversible. What about type 2 and type 3, the one that you get during pregnancy?
all the diabetes, the type 2 diabetes, like gestational diabetes, for those who develop diabetes after 24 weeks to 26 weeks or 28 weeks of diabetes, after delivery, most of them can reverse it. But it's an indication that you have got high risk factors of developing type 2 diabetes later. All the diabetes, there's no cure for type 1, type 2, type 3. Nowadays, in the outside there, you get people talking about diabetes remission. They're talking about diabetes reversal, especially in type 2 diabetes. Diabetes remission, diabetes reversal, it's not a cure. This is a state whereby an individual has brought down the blood sugar level to desirable ranges through diet and exercise.
All right. You'll be telling us a bit more about how to regulate, the blood sugars through diet and the lifestyle changes that are needed to better manage diabetes. And we understand that it's one of the conditions that you cannot be able to truly treat. What you do is actually just manage the condition once you get it. Of course, we are having this conversation at a time when we're just trying to create awareness around diabetes. Like Philip is sharing with us, there are 3 types of diabetes. That is type 1, type 2, and type 3. So you may not have had any, you may not have been exposed to any risk factors, but again, during pregnancy or before conception, you can actually be, diagnosed with type 3 diabetes. So that is what he's also sharing with us. It will be interesting to also understand how you can be able to manage that. But just coming back to where we started when you were explaining to us what diabetes is, you mentioned insulin. Okay. So we want to understand the significance of this component in our body, such that in the event you're diagnosed with diabetes, so what happens? So what is the difference, and how, if you're at risk, what risk are we talking about?
In type 1, there's no productions of insulin completely. So you get artificial insulin through injection for the rest of your life. In type 2, there are 2 scenarios which has happened. There's insufficient production of insulin, or there's resistance in insulin in the body cells and tissues. Now, when you talk about insufficient, it could be maybe because of the age. As we grow, our body system also age. And then in terms of resistance, it's more about having a lot of excess visceral fat. There are different types of body system. The most common fat that can trigger insulin resistance is the visceral fats, where we normally, it's around our belly. We call it central obesity. And then in type 2, the type 3, the gestational diabetes is always about insulin resistant because of the pregnancy hormone between that particular weeks of pregnancy, 28 to 36 weeks. Now, if type 1 are diagnosed with diabetes, when you see the hierarchy or the protocol of treatment, the first component is about diet, then exercise, then medication. Because
and I like that hierarchy.
Okay.
It begins from diet, then exercise, then medication. It begins from what you can control, now the medication.
The medication. Yeah. Because no amount of dosages that you can change, especially in type 2, we can keep on changing. You're moving from metformin, you're moving to this drug, and you have not controlled the diet in part of it. You can be taking your medication as prescribed, the right dosage, the right time, but if your diet is poor, you'll keep on changing the doctor, you'll keep on changing the hospital, you keep on changing the brand of medication, but it always starts with the diet, because the diet is directly responsible to high blood sugar level. There's no any way in the body system that we can raise our blood sugar level apart from the diet, which plays a major role.
All right. So I want to know, what are some of the symptoms? Because people would like to understand. So how do I even get to guess that I need to go test for diabetes, or how will I feel, or what are some of the things I will observe?
So most of the common symptoms in diabetes is increased thirst and frequent urination. And when I talk about increased thirst, most people can fail to notice it, especially for those people who are living in Mombasa, Turkana, because of the weather in that particular region. You can keep on drinking water, you think it's because it's an hot environment. So there's increased thirst and frequent urination, most commonly at night. And then there's unexplained weight loss. Then there's blood vision, you won't take longer time to heal, and then there is that excessive, so most of the people, they have got this headache on and off, which they cannot explain. So those are the most common. But nowadays, for the past 2 years, as I was practicing, I've been practicing, there are those patients who normally come to the hospital maybe because of a different condition. They are coming to the hospital because of maybe they have acidity. But when we run a routine check, we tend to find them that they are diabetes. There's something called an average blood sugar level for the past 3 months, hemoglobin H1C, which runs the blood sugar. We see the total average of sugar, how it has been in your blood for the past 3 months. So the required range is supposed to be between 4.5 to 6.5. So an individual will come to the hospital maybe because of an headache, maybe because of an wound, but when we run the test, we find the sugar level has been high for the past around 3 months to 4 months. So we cannot nowadays rely so much on the symptoms. That's why when we create awareness, whether you have the symptoms or not, it's important that you go for frequent screening.
All right, so when you talk about complications that come with diabetes, what are they? When the insulin is too low and when it's too high, what are some of the complications that the person is likely to face?
Most of the complication comes when the sugars are consistently high for quite some time. And one of the most complication diabetes has got a sister or a cousin. We call it high blood pressure. Majority of people who have got high blood pressure, they will tend to have high diabetes. Those who have diabetes, they tend to have high blood pressure. So there's got high blood pressure. There's what we call kidney failure. There's heart problem. There's amputation. So. And then there are people who can also lose their sight because of increased blood sugar level for quite some time. So those are the major complications for those people who have got high blood sugar level, which is untreated for quite some time. And one of those complications when you have got low blood sugar level, we call it hypoglycemia. Sometimes it can lead to death when the blood sugar level is 1 and you don't know, or 2, and there's no emergency that people can support you, or they are aware what they can do to an individual who have got low blood sugar level. But most of the people who have got diabetes, when their sugar level is constant, let's say it's most of the time it's 15 millimoles, 20 millimoles, they're not taking care of their diet, they're not doing exercise, they're not adhering to medication, you might not feel pain instantly, but inside your body system, that high blood sugar level gradually destroys specific organs like the kidney, the heart, and the nerves, and the retina of the eye.
All right, I know you've practiced for some time. I don't know whether it's only at MPSHA or you've been elsewhere, but over the years that you have been practicing, what are the trends looking like in terms of how common diabetes is? And we hear reports that nowadays even the younger population is increasing. Kitambo, we used to think it's a disease for the aged, but now we are seeing the trend reversing. So just tell us a bit about some of the things you're reading that are different and what it could be informing us about when it comes to diabetes and how it spreads.
When it comes to diabetes, those who are diagnosed, the majority of those who are diagnosed who come to the hospital for checkup are women. They are so alert and sensitive on their health. They are conscious about the changes in their body system, unlike the men. Most of the men, they come to hospital because of another condition or another problem. And quote unquote, we diagnose them accidentally because of a certain ailment that they had and they were not aware they have got diabetes.
So that is not what brought them
That's not what brought them to the hospital. It will be something else. That majority is men. But most women, when they notice change, they immediately come and give us the symptoms, and we are aware and we do the test. And for children, the most common trend nowadays that I get for children is type 2 diabetes in 16 years old, in 13 years old, which about 5 years ago when I started practicing, it was rare. So I used to get type 1 diabetes in children of 6 years, 7 years. But nowadays, I get type 2 diabetes in children of 10 years because of obesity. This is because of access to different junk food, which is so easy and affordable within a tap of a button. You have junk food at your doorstep.
All right, so is it true then that diabetes is closely linked to lifestyle, even those who don't have diabetes? Just talk to us about lifestyle and the level at which it relates to what causes diabetes.
Okay, people used to think that when you are obese, you will have diabetes. There are people who can be lean, but still they will have diabetes. You can be at 20 years old and you have diabetes. This is because of change in lifestyle. And our lifestyle, people have every area in this country is moving to urbanization. We cannot say that even at the remote place in this country, you can still get French fries, you can still get pizza, you can still get junk food, you can order online, and somebody will come. It's about the lifestyle. Increased technology, changing in working concept. People can be employed, but they sit in the house from morning to evening. Their house is their office. They do everything in the house. So that movement, that physical activity has greatly reduced. Improved transportation of border. There is taxi at your doorstep. Most people are able to buy a vehicle. Individual can have 2 vehicles. They move from an office with a car. There's a lift. Even when you go to an apartment, there's a lift. So that change in the environment, so the food environment directly affects our food choices. Accessibility of junk food is higher than accessibility of nutrient-dense food and education. And having good number of nutritionists in the different hospitals. You can find an hospital of 200 beds, but they have only hired only 1 nutritionist.
To serve this
to serve all these type of, they are serving both the inpatient and outpatient. So this nutritionist might not reach all the patients. In fact, even these nutritionists, you are putting them under high mental stress because they want to achieve the target. They know there's the gap, but they cannot reach because they are serving more than 200 people per day, 100 people per day. So when we have the awareness of the value of nutritionists in terms of education and intervention in prevention and management, it will play a very important role in reducing the prevalence.
All right. You know, it's good that you've said that, Philip, because we always hear you are what you eat.
True.
And most of these conditions, because I've done this show for quite some time, and we realize that most of these conditions are caused by what we consume. So if only we could invest more on people who could create awareness on the right foods to consume, then most of these conditions would be prevented. So what you're saying is we need more nutritionists.
Yes.
Yeah?
Nutritionists are there, but they are not like employed or something. They are there. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And now we are joined by Yvonne Mora. Yvonne actually understands what you are talking about from a very personal perspective because she's a diabetes warrior. Karibu sana, Yvonne.
Thank you so
we were just dissecting and breaking down this condition to understand what it is and what causes it. But from your own point of view, I want us to tell us a bit about yourself and your journey with diabetes. When were you diagnosed? And like Philip is saying, a majority of patients who are diagnosed with diabetes came for different reasons at the health facility only to discover that they had diabetes. So what's your story?
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm grateful to be here. So one thing that I was diagnosed last year, like on October, and I went to the hospital because I had a headache and I was like vomiting a lot. But I didn't have any other signs like maybe frequent urination or something like that. I was just so weak that I couldn't even climb the stairs. So I just had to go to the hospital because I thought maybe it could be just something small. So I went to the hospital and I took a couple of tests and they told me that my blood sugar is high. And I was like, maybe it's just something, maybe it's just a short-term thing. And they told me I should take a couple of tests, and I did that, urinalysis and stuff like that. And I was told like I had so many my ketones were high, so I had like, they told me that I'm in DKA, that is diabetes ketoacidosis. So I had to take medication, so I was hospitalized. So yeah, that is it.
So that was October last year.
Yeah.
You were talking about some really interesting medical jargon when it comes to diabetes. I'm keen to know, what did you know about diabetes before you were diagnosed and after? Were you this aware? Because today it's all about awareness.
Yeah.
But had you exposed yourself to information about diabetes before you were diagnosed?
Okay, so like previously, my dad is diabetic. He's been like diabetic for like 10 years. And my mom was diagnosed like, let me say 2 weeks before I was diagnosed. Yeah. So I wasn't like that aware of type 1 diabetes because I thought like maybe it was about taking pills and about like eating brown stuff. So then that's something
So that
I've
was
come...
before you were a patient?
Yeah.
So you were already taking a diabetic diet?
No, I wasn't. But I knew like maybe diabetes is about taking brown stuff and stuff like that. And one thing that I'm actually shocked about, I was shocked about, is like the type of food that I'm supposed to eat. And being a type 1 diabetic, you have to like do the carbs counting and stuff like that. Because I didn't know that the brown stuff are equally the same as the white stuff. So if I take white ugali and the brown ugali, it's actually the same. So I had to learn about that.
Right.
And it is mind-blowing.
All right, all right. You'll tell us a bit about how your menu on an ordinary day looks like.
Yeah.
But today it was all about wellness for people who are managing diabetes. That's like the spirit around the theme for the awareness for this year. Actually, it's on Thursday. That is tomorrow. We are marking the World Diabetes Day. And it should be interesting for you to actually just find out what you need to know about diabetes, whether you have been diagnosed or not. I mean, you never know what you could be able to save yourself or your loved one from by just exposing yourself to information. But don't worry, keep watching. That's why we're here. And I have people who understand this better than I. So let's continue just exploring, now the diet. And today the topic was around diabetes and nutrition. And that is where you thrive, Philip. So tell us a bit about when you're talking about a diet for somebody who has diabetes. So what are some of the fundamental things that we should consider, first of all, before we even come up with, something?
Okay.
And why?
So there are several factors for a nutritionist will consider before putting you on an individualized diet. Factor number 1 is age. Factor number 2 is gender. Factor number 3 is the activity. Factor number 4, it is your health status and nutrition status. Now, when the nutritionist will do the assessment, there's something called anthropometric assessment. We take your height, your weight, and we have moved further to what we call body composition analysis, where we are able to get your bone density, your muscle mass, your visceral fat, and your metabolic age. So when we consider this factor now, we sit down now and we come up with a meal plan. And to understand the meal plan, I appreciate now she said something very good, and I like it that she understood that brown food and white food, it is still a carbohydrate. So there are people, about 20 years ago, I've been practicing for more than 12 years, and about 10 years ago, we were telling patients to eat brown ugali, eat brown food. There is one patient who was told by the doctor to eat brown food, so for brown bread. So for him, he was taking full loaf of bread. So he was so comfortable.
Full loaf of brown bread.
Full loaf of brown bread.
For him, it's safe.
For him, it is safe because it was told brown food, it's safe, so you can enjoy it as much as you want. So if it's ugali, it's brown. And
ugali that is brown.
So they didn't realize both brown and white, once digested, it becomes glucose in the body system. So cooking oil does not directly raise the blood sugar level. So you find some patients, they're eating boiled food. No, most of the people fear coming to the hospital or being diagnosed with diabetes because they know, quote unquote, they will start eating pathetic food.
Boring stuff.
Boring stuff. Food that is boiled. There is no salt, there's no oil, then they just put mashakura,
all the luxuries.
So the first question patients come to my office, they ask, Daktari, najua unaenda kunikataza machakula. So allow me to eat and enjoy the next 3 days, then I will start on Monday or the next week. But cooking oil does not directly raise the blood sugar level. The same thing with animal proteins, things like fish and chicken. Most people love beef, okay? And if you went to boarding school, you want, we know the kind of school that we eat in boarding school. So once you are employed, you want to eat meat from Monday to Sunday.
Unalipisha.
You know, I suffered in boarding school. I used to eat gederi from Monday to Sunday. So you want to eat well.
Or I don't want to live the life I lived when I was growing up.
Yes, we suffered. I was in a village. I never used to see meat. But take peace, And diabetes, we say that cooking oil does not directly raise the blood sugar level, even though we have got different types of cooking oil, which we can discuss later about different cooking oil. And then animal proteins, things like fish, it doesn't raise the blood sugar level. What's boiled egg or scrambled egg, it doesn't raise blood sugar level. I was talking to someone about 2 days ago. The guideline about alcohol intake, they say that men, if you are a drinker, it's comfortable for you to drink around 2 bottles of drink per day, 2 beers per day. For women, it's 1 bottle per day. So you are free to take 2 bottles as a man every day, okay? But the same guidelines say that it is not okay for you to eat eggs daily. So between alcohol and eggs, which one is more natural? Which one is more refined? Which one has got more preservative? You have an end back at home there, you pick that egg, you boil and you eat, but you are being restricted to take 3. So we used to think even eggs, that they will raise cholesterol. I have friends, I have patients who are vegetarian from birth. They have never tasted beef, neither eggs, but you find their cholesterol are high on the roof. So it's about understanding what is this. And we thank God for the technology, the improved technology and the studies which are coming up and there. There's one nutritionist that I like as Ruth Nduta. So she speaks vocally about understanding the biochemistry of different types of food. Now, if you are a diabetes, you have to understand your focus is the carbohydrate, because the carbohydrate is the one that the body will break it down to become glucose. So we have got 2 major types of carbohydrate. We have got the simple carbohydrate and the complex carbohydrate. So the simple carbohydrate will instantly raise your blood sugar level. You will find people who are avoiding egg yolk, but they are taking biscuit because they say egg yolk will raise the cholesterol. But here they are drinking soda, they are drinking juices, they are making fresh orange juices, but they are avoiding egg yolk. So when you understand that the carbohydrate, the simple carbohydrate, that one you eliminate. Once diagnosed, we eliminate all the simple carbohydrates. The soda, things like honey, whether the honey is original, pure, or fake, you avoid. It will still raise the blood sugar level. So people think that when you switch from sugar to honey, you are safe. No, the difference between honey is something called glycemic index and glycemic load. The speed and the rate at which the body will convert it to become blood sugar level, and the load of carbohydrate that it will produce after 2 hours of ingestion. But still, at the end of 2 hours, both table sugar and honey, whether pure, whether it's coming from Marigat or Kitui, it will still become sugar.
The same thing. Right. All right. I like what I'm learning is that you should know the foods that you consume, what they contain, and in what quantities. It's not just hearsay. Ati asali ni mzuri, huyu alijaribu hii, boil, you know, it's about really knowing what is it that you're taking. Like,
you see, sometimes people say that, like, we ask them to take root tuber, like nduma, cassava, sweet potato. So they know nduma is not preserved, it's not packed, never went to any factory, so they take nduma. Even though nduma is a nutrient-dense carbohydrate food, it is still a carbohydrate. What matters is the portion of that food. So the carbohydrate content in rice is not the same as the carbohydrate content in nduma. The carbohydrate content in rice is higher than nduma. And when we talk about the carbohydrates in different food, you tend to find the pumpkin, which most people don't like pumpkin. I don't like pumpkin too.
But if you eat too much nduma, you could actually find yourself matching up to the carbs that are there in rice.
Yes, what matters is the portion of your carbohydrate.
So you need to strike a balance. Yvonne, I want to understand how your diagnosis impacted your life. What adjustments did you have to make? Just tell me a bit about what changed after you now knew that you had diabetes. And it's type 1 diabetes that Philip was telling us is something you have to manage for the rest of your life.
Okay. So I'm guessing, like, when I was diagnosed, I was like, so I have to test daily. I take insulin like around 4 times a day. And it actually depends on the amount of carbohydrates that I'm taking, because, maybe sometimes you could be eating a lot of carbs and sometimes you are eating a small amount of carbs. So the sugar is going to rise maybe a little bit higher or a little bit lower. So I inject, like, I have a curated amount of insulin that I'm supposed to be injecting, but I actually adjust. So I adjust daily. And then one thing that I was so spooked about is I don't really like needles. And
so that exposes you to a world of always injecting.
Always injecting. And when I was first diagnosed, I was so scared of the needles, or maybe I'm gonna inject too much of insulin, and then maybe I have like hypoglycemia, and then I don't know. I think I had a lot of maybe depression around it. But then I started doing a lot of research, maybe using social media, because I think it's the only thing you can do, because you can't really reach like professionals all the time. And I found a couple of people that were really helpful in my journey, like some TikTokers who are type 1 diabetics, and those are the people who like opened my eyes into like seeing that maybe it's not a really bad condition, I can manage it. And then I also found a support group that is maybe a WhatsApp group here in Kenya. It's called Young and Sweet, and it was helpful at first because I wasn't really, it was very new stuff. Because the people around me were actually type 2 diabetic, and they were telling me, oh, you know, just eat brown stuff and that's all. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. And then when I eat the brown stuff, I test myself, I'll be like, the sugar is so high, even though I injected like, okay, the amount that I was given, and the sugar is high. So I had to adjust and interact with people who are like type 1 diabetic like me, so that I would adjust to it.
So what I'm getting from what she's sharing is you have to really, the insulin is not like a given that if you're given this amount that you have to inject this number of times, then you adhere to that as law. Like you have to play around with the levels depending on what you eat.
Yes.
Still, yeah, you really need to understand your body and your system to make this work.
Sure. There is something called insulin to carb ratio. So those people use 1 unit of insulin to bring down 10 grams of carbohydrates, or 1 unit of insulin to bring 15 grams of carbohydrate. And it's important for the type 1 to know the calculation so that they be in a better position to adjust the insulin. So you test your blood sugar maybe before meal, then after meal, so you understand the millimoles of the changes of the blood sugar level. And there's something called insulin correcting factor, which she has so mentioned, which is not in type 2 diabetes. So if your target of blood sugar level, let's say it's about 8 millimole, and then after a meal you find your blood sugar level is 15 millimole. So you need to do what we call insulin correcting factor. It's about calculation. And this one is about intense, where you have to understand different carbohydrates and how to adjust how many millimoles are you going to, units of insulin will bring down this amount of blood sugar level. So it's not like just like it's a lump sum because that she's type 1 and that is type 1, they have got the same amount of carbohydrate or the same amount of insulin. It's totally different. Again, it's based on activity level. The insulin of somebody who sits behind the desk is totally different to somebody who is very active, moving up and down. He's in the field, or he's doing farming, he's doing construction work. So the energy expenditure for both of them is not the same. How they metabolize carbohydrates is not the same. I can shock you, there's a patient that we normally say that for all the diabetes, this is a plate here, maybe you can see.
By the way, people are wondering, today we have a plate in studio.
There is a plate in studio, okay?
Yeah.
So in the past, we used to say half of a plate is vegetable, then half a carbohydrate, half proteins. And also, again, in high school, we used to learn that the proteins, the legumes and the pulses, they are proteins. But we have come to realize the ratio of carbohydrates in beans are higher than the protein. So the ratio of carbohydrates in jahe, in kunde, in lentils, in minji, carbohydrates are higher as compared to the proteins. But they are good carbohydrates when you compare them with rice, nduma, because they are slow releasing sugar than the rice and the nduma. So when we talk about the patient that I was told that we kept on insisting that you have to take vegetable, and then we noticed, no, we normally we call it postprandial blood sugar level. So you see the impact of food that you have eaten after 2 hours. So people have got different targets. So usually the ranges should be between 5.0 to below 10 millimole. Some have given 8 targets, some 9 targets. Now, this patient was consistently monitoring the glucose count, the carbohydrates content. But anytime she takes cabbage, the white cabbage, the blood sugar spike. So that's why we said that we individualize the diet. There's somebody who metabolizes carbohydrate differently from another person. There's somebody when we say that you can take one white chapati full, like around 75 grams, but that 75 grams to another person will elevate the blood sugar level.
One chapati?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we metabolize food differently.
Wale mnakula chapati 4-3,
So there's something called meal timing. The meal timing, you need to have like a structured, consistent meal timing. You cannot be biting every 1 hour. You're biting something, you're chewing something. If you're not talking, you are eating. If you're not eating, you are talking. And
so snacking, eating all the time is also something that
it has to be structured. Now, for the type 1, it's important because they have got high incidence of having hypoglycemia, blood sugar level going below 4.9 millimoles, or 3 millimoles, or 2 millimoles. Huh? And for type 2, because it's a lifestyle, mostly directed because of their food intake and the activity level. So for type 1, because of emergency, especially it's most common in children, we give them snacking. But you find, and we usually test sugar 2 hours post-meal. But if you are biting after every 30 minutes, when we test that sugar, every time we'll see the trend is high. So we talk about structured meal timing. If your breakfast today is 6, it goes with medication. You cannot have your breakfast tomorrow at 11 a.m. The following day, you are having it at 9. You have erratic meal timing. Or you take your dinner at midnight. So when you do the fasting blood sugar, this is 8 hours post-meal, you find it is high because it's supposed to be 8 hours. Or you have got a poor sleep. You find out even when you don't have sufficient amount, your medication is okay, your diet is okay.
But you're not sleeping.
But you're not sleeping well. You find your sugars is very high. Apart from diet, there are other factors that can raise the blood sugar level. If you're a person who is tempered, you're always moody, always stressed, you're not sleeping well, you have in and out of infection, even that still can raise the blood sugar level. But when we come to diet, it is individualized. You cannot say because so-and-so has got diabetes and is eating this much, so I can copy-paste this meal and achieve. Now, nutritionists currently in this nation, they have moved from giving a general meal plan
to an
individualized meal plan.
I'll come back to you so that you give us, more about the meal planning and how to make it work for every patient differently. But let me just also hear from Yvonne. What's like your kawaida menu looking like and times that you eat? Like what have you done to make things work and easier for you so that you can be able to manage your diabetes better?
Okay.
And what are your favorite or common items on the menu right now? Mostly,
like right now, I'll say eggs and mostly like white meat. I take that a lot. And vegetables, because I realized I just love vegetables after diagnosis.
Okay. Yeah. You didn't know you loved it before. Now you know.
Like right now, my meal can't miss veggies because I'll feel like I've not eaten. Because the amount of carbs I'm going to take on maybe the white and other stuff, the complex ones, is going to be so low. So I have to take these ones. And I was talking about something about carrying sweet stuff like a juice box or something. I made a video about it and I got a lot of backlash about that because they were like, oh, you're diabetic and you're carrying juice, you're carrying and stuff like that. I felt like
maybe
our schools should like incorporate something like that in
to educate people.
Yeah, like like for somebody who's type 1 diabetic, you have to inject the insulin and then your food. Maybe sometimes the food is not enough for you, so maybe you'll get an hypo. Your blood sugar is low and you have to get it higher, right?
Yeah.
So you have to take the fast-acting sugars like juice, glucose, or something like that.
So sometimes it's necessary.
Very necessary, because maybe you'll get into a coma if you don't. And if you're diabetic, your body doesn't have the ability to resuscitate itself if you're on insulin and you just don't act on it. So my meal plan, in the morning, I would take 2 eggs, but not occasionally. And because, the economy.
Nasumbua kila mahali.
Yeah. So in the morning, I would take that. And at lunchtime, I tend to have maybe a lot of vegetables. And snacking, maybe huwa natakingi salad, but si sana. Not most of I don't snack a lot these days, but kitambo I used to.
You used to snack.
Yeah.
I want to understand, because Philip mentioned avoid erratic eating. It has to be timed and something that is...
Yeah, because...
So how do you manage? You're a student, right?
Yeah.
So with these chaotic schedules in Kenya, juangi utapata lunch saa ngapi, dinner what time? Like, how do you manage to ensure that you eat at the right time, depending on your schedule?
Okay.
What have you done to make it work?
I carry snacks around. Yeah, and it's actually essential. So when I get late for my meals, I would first test my sugars and see if maybe it's low, because if it gets low, you can't, like, you have to take the snack. But if it's actually normal, you can wait a little bit. So you will work around the schedule like that. So if I'm taking breakfast in the morning and then maybe let's say at 1 p.m. Like my blood sugar is low, I'll have to take the snack. But if it's not low, I just wait around until I get to the food. Yeah.
So before you eat, you have to, first of all...
Yeah, you have to inject, you have to test and see the sugars, if they're like high or low.
So that you know how much to eat.
How much to inject. You first inject and then you eat.
Okay. Seems like there's a lot to learn once you get into this journey in this new lifestyle. Daktari, I want us to talk more about the nutritional aspect. You know, you just talked about carbohydrates and measuring how much carbs is in which food, but Kenyans would find it hard to now relate it to what they see every day. So how best can you, you know, make the message sink home? Like, are there examples of good carbohydrates, good fats, things that they see in their markets that they can be able to buy? And when you talk about measurements, what's the trick? Because if I have an avocado, I wouldn't know how much, you know, fats are in that, you know, by just looking at it. So how do you measure? So
some people can afford weighing scale and they have got time to use the weighing scale. They can have it. But I went to the market and I saw these cups. These are called baking measuring cups. So, for example, for breakfast, a Kenyan breakfast, let's say who is in rural area, and you want to take your breakfast, so you can have tea with milk, without sugar, without honey. There's no issue there. Okay?
That is for somebody who has diabetes?
That's somebody who has got diabetes. So I'm just giving a general information, but they have to sit down with their nutritionist to know to understand the individualized. So we can say 1 cup of tea or 2 cups of tea without sugar, without honey. And they can have with nduma. Either it can be boiled, shallow fried, or it can be roasted. So we normally use this cup. This is a 250 ml cup. So again, nowadays you don't say that don't cook twice in the family, that you're cooking. When diabetic, ngoja chakula yako jaiva. You know, people when go to wedding, diabetes, mtu wa sukari, chakula yenye bado, ngoje, you feel bad, that's stigma. So
that's discrimination.
And then it's costly in Kenya to cook twice nowadays. With these taxes everywhere, it's costly to cook twice. So we say now, it's nduma, everybody in the family, they're having nduma for breakfast. For those who are okay, they can enjoy what they want. Now, for the diabetic, 1 cup of tea or 2 cups of tea, this much of nduma, this is 250 grams of nduma, it can give you between 30 to 45 grams of carbohydrate. So that one. So nduma is a starch. People call it carbohydrate. Some people call it starch or carbohydrate. So tea is a fluid which has got some milk, some percentage of calcium, and some proteins. And then you have a boiled egg. So that is a complete meal. You can have a salad, you can have a kachumbari, as much as you want, because the kachumbari will never raise the blood sugar level. Again, people understand that fruits are very important and they have got vitamins. During my experience, I've learned you can take the right portion of nduma, but when you take immediately with certain fruits, like ripe banana, it will spike the blood sugar level. So I usually advise them to use fruits as a snack if it's necessary. They want to snack, the way she has mentioned. Especially for type 1, they can carry an apple around because 1 apple, which is around 130 grams, can give you about 14 grams of carbohydrate, which is equivalent to around 2 teaspoons of sugar. So you can use that as a snack. Now, for the type 2 diabetes, so you say you take your breakfast at 6. That is your nduma, your boiled egg,
And tea.
And tea. That is complete. And kachumbari or vegetable, or a leftover vegetable that you can use. So vegetable, we say as much as you want. But again, we have to individualize. For individual whom, when they take cabbage, it will raise the blood sugar level. So at 10 a.m. or 10:30, they can have plain yogurt, okay, around 200 ml or 150 ml, depending on how their blood sugar was.
Not 500 ml.
Okay? Yeah. So lunchtime, they can have lunch. They can have, let's say, the most affordable lunch in the street and everywhere. Let's say beans and rice and vegetable. But remember, the back of our mind that beans has got some amount of carbohydrate. So I usually
that's important you're saying, because many people think beans need proteins.
Beans has got protein, but the ratio is very low. Okay? So if you are taking, let's say you are taking rice with beef, so this will be rice when you are taking with beef. So this is my plate. So this is your vegetable. It can be sagek, managu. There's no any traditional vegetable that will spike the blood sugar level. You cook it well, deliciously. Put some spices if you don't have any other chronic condition. So this is vegetable. And then this one is protein. Now this protein, we can enjoy fish and chicken. I usually say red meat is restricted when you have got issues like pancreatitis, end-stage renal disease, you have got gout, you have got arthritis, or you have got an allergy, then you can restrict red meat. Or you have got colon cancer or anal cancer, because we know they have got direct impact on those conditions. Now, if you don't have, it's just only diabetes and no any other medical condition, you can have it. Now,
in moderation.
In moderation, not daily again. So we have to diversify our diet again. Monday something else. So we take, here is chicken, and then here is carbohydrate. No, this is our rice. So this is our rice and chicken. So you see the portion of rice we are taking with chicken, because chicken has got very low amount, it has got 0 carbohydrate. And then vegetable has got very low carbohydrate. So this is rice. But when you're taking rice...
You know, somebody's looking at your plate, they're saying it should be the other way around.
if you don't... Now, if you're taking now rice...
The veggies should be somewhere hapo kwa starch.
Unaharibu hapo sasa.
But that's what people do. Ugali iko inside, you know, hapo kwa vegetables ndio side ya ugali.
Kuna mwingine tulimwambia enda kule ugali kidogo hivi, akaenda keka ugali kwa hivi.
Oh my goodness. Somebody's watching you sema yeye.
Juu daktari alimwambia kule hivi kidogo. Sasa kija alifanya siri kidogo akaipandisha hivi kwe.
Oh my goodness.
So, okay, now let's go. Let's say for individual taking rice with beans, understand that beans have got some carbohydrates. So you'll take now, see, this is rice with chicken.
Yeah.
Now, rice with beans, now it will be, this is rice. This is half a cup. You see, I've changed rice because I'm going to take with beans. Because this beans has got carbohydrates.
Okay, okay.
Because not everybody can afford fish, chicken, and beef. Okay?
But you're not supposed to consume it, even if you can afford. Don't eat every day.
Don't eat every day, okay? So this is rice with beans. It can be njae, it can be minji, so like this one. But now, when you take things like, you cannot have multiple starch in one plate. Now, this is your rice. You're putting some potatoes in your rice. Or you are making githeri. Let's say this is amount of cooked githeri.
Sasa umeanza kuguza mrima.
Na tuliambia tusiguze mrima. Okay, watu wa mashakura. So you see githeri, it has got maize. It's a starch. It has got beans, which has got protein and starch.
Again.
Then you're putting there potato, and then you're putting there matoke. So you cannot have multiple starch in one plate because they have got different glycemic index and glycemic load. It is one starch per meal.
Yeah. All right. We're almost winding up, but I want Yvonne very quickly. What are the cost implications of this lifestyle? Because that has been a debate in our country as we just want to wind up.
That's a huge one. Okay, so as we talk about the nutrition, you know, obviously the food is very expensive. Let's talk about the cost of insulin. You can go to a chemist in town and you'll ask for an insulin pen or whatever, and you'll get, it's very expensive, by the way. And that pen, you won't use even for 2 weeks. It's like 1 week and 1 day or 2 days. Yeah. And also, if you go to the insurance, stuff like that, most of them don't cover the medicine for like type 1 diabetes. For type 2 is different because it's not that costly. Okay, some people actually on type 2, they use insulin, but for the type 1s, it's very expensive to buy the insulin. You'll get that one pen is like 2,500, and you have to use 2 because you have the basal and the short-acting one. So you have to use 2 in a day, which is like 3 times and 1 time for the basal one. Or 2 times, whatever the dosage that you have. So it's very expensive, and maybe you will go to an hospital and you want the medication, and they'll be like, your insurance doesn't cover that. So just, and another thing I want to talk about is the strips for testing, because you have to keep testing for the day, like maybe 4 to 5 times a day you have to test. And the strips also, they're very expensive. If you want to purchase one, you'll get like it's maybe 2,500, and they won't last a month. And additionally to the food, you'll get that you're using a lot of money to buy that stuff.
The reason I asked you that is because we're talking about care and support for people with diabetes. So we need to understand the challenges that people who are managing diabetes go through and what will inform decisions and policies to be able to make life more manageable for them. So cost is one key aspect, like you're telling us. Unfortunately, I'm out of time. I wish we had more time for this, but I want us to wind up this conversation, maybe to come back to you, Philip. What would be your parting shot? Tomorrow is the big day, but generally speaking, if somebody has been watching you, both those who have diabetes and those who still don't, when I use still, it's like the wheel, those who don't have diabetes, So what are you telling them? What's your parting shot?
My parting shot is the rate of undiagnosed diabetes is higher than those that we have diagnosed. So I will encourage people, whether you have the symptoms or not, please go for screening. Takes within 5 minutes and you know your status, whether you have diabetes or not. And when you are not, please don't celebrate and you go back to junk food. Another thing that I can say, my parting shot, that once diagnosed, it's very important, don't go to Dr. Google. We have got competent nutritionists in this country who will assist you to manage your diet. I've seen individuals with pre-diabetic and type 2 diabetes who have reversed their diabetes through diet change. And then again, exercise is the most important thing. Even though God has blessed us, we drive here and there, we work in an office, please create time for your health. Your health does not start in the gym. Your health starts in the kitchen. What you eat is directly proportional to your health status.
Thank you so much. Yvonne, your final words?
Okay, so I'm going to say, like, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to represent the diabetes warriors out there, and you guys are doing a great job in managing it. And if you're having a problem, you can reach out to professionals for like helping you manage it. And please take note of the nutrition, as Doctor has talked about. And that is it.
All right, thank you so much, Yvonne Mora, a diabetes warrior, congratulating all the warriors out there and telling them keep on keeping on, keep on keeping on. And of course, for you, you can actually prevent diabetes. You have the control. What you eat, what you do. Do not live an inactive lifestyle. Do not consume things that will put you at risk. If you have diabetes, also you need to change your lifestyle. Check what you eat. Look at the quantities, the timings you're eating. It's all about loving yourself and taking better care of yourself on both ends. I've been having this conversation with Yvonne Mora, a diabetes warrior, and Philip Lundu, a clinical nutritionist from the MP Shah Hospital right here in Nairobi. Asante sana once again. We do this again next Wednesday. My name is Safina Chengoma. Have a lovely day ahead.